Hi everyone, I am Rexan Sisagari from BS Ed English 2. For this video, we are going to discuss under the Module 2, which is contained of policies and issues on internet and implications to teaching and learning. But before to go to the discussion, let us know first the lesson outcomes of this topic. So we have two. First, name examples of ICT policies which are applicable to teaching and learning. Second is discuss some issues that relate to the ICT policy. Okay, so new technologies have become central to the lives of every individual in this planet. Whether you are talking in the phone, sending an electronic mail, going to the bank, using the library, watching news on television, going to the doctor, catching a flight, or seeing a movie, you are using ICT. Almost everything that we do in the modern world is influenced by the new technologies. But for us, future educator, would your life as a teacher be also influenced by the new technologies? Or should we leave our lives to be controlled by technology? Or should we control the utilization of technology in our lives? How? Okay, let us define first the ICT policy. The Oxford English Dictionary has defined policy as a course of an action adopted and pursued by a government, party, ruler, or statesman. It is any course of action adopted as expedient or advantageous. Its operational definition of policy is a plan of action to guide decisions and achieve outcomes. Thus, ICT policies are needed to put a roadmap or course of actions to be pursued and adopted by various governments, organizations, entities involving ICT. Okay, more recent technological innovations increase the reach and speed of communications, which can be grouped into three categories. Okay, number one, we have information technology. It includes the use of computers, which has become indispensable in modern societies to process data and save time and effort. What are needed will be computer hardware and peripherals, software, and for the user, computer literacy. Okay, here are some examples of information technologies. So, information technologies, accordingly sa ato pa, mo ni siya ang ato ang ginagamit to spread out information para sa uban, tapos para mapadali ang atong mga trabahoon, especially for us a future educator. Information technology could help us more effective. Okay, number two, we have telecommunication technologies. It includes telephones with fax and the broadcasting of radio and television, often through satellites. Telephone system, radio, and TV broadcasting are needed in this category. So, this is one of an example of telecommunication technologies. The third one, we have networking technologies. The best known of networking technologies is Internet, but has extended to mobile phone technology. Voice over Internet Protocol or VoIP, satellite communications, and other forms of communications are still in their infancy. In addition to Internet, the category also includes mobile telephone, cable, DSL, satellite, and other broadband connectivity. One of an example of networking technologies. So, as we have observed in the picture, how networking technology works. Okay, so let's move on to the ICT roadmap. Okay, what is the ICT roadmap? Accordingly, the Department of Information and Communication Technology, or the ICT, has formulated a roadmap to guide all agencies in the utilization, regulation, and enhancement of ICT. Each project has corresponding policy statements and guidelines. So, the ICT for Education, or ICT4E, is a program under the ICT that supports all the efforts of the education sector in incorporating the use of ICT as well as in determining and gaining access to the infrastructure, hardware, software, telecommunication facilities, and others, which are necessary to use and deploy learning technologies at all levels of education. Among the policy recommended programs that have applications to education, teaching, learning are okay, first, ICT in Education Master Plan for all levels, including a national roadmap for faculty development in ICT education. A national framework plan for ICTs in basic was developed. Okay, second, the content and application development through the Open Content in Education Initiative or OCEI, which converts deep ed materials into interactive multimedia content, develop applications used in schools, and conduct students and teachers competitions to promote the development of education related web content. Next, we have PDNet is a walled garden that hosts educational learning and teaching materials and applications for use by Filipino students, their parents, and teachers. All public high schools will be part of this network with only DepEd approved multimedia applications, materials, and mirrored internet sites accessible from schools' PCs or personal computers. Okay, for the fourth one, established community e-learning centers called e-Eskwela for out-of-school youth or OSY, providing them with ICT-enhanced alternative education opportunities. Next, e-quality program for tertiary education through partnerships with state universities and colleges or SUCS to improve quality of IT education and the use of ICT in education in the country, particularly outside of Metro Manila. Next, we have Digital Media Arts Program, which builds digital media skills for government using open source technologies. Particular beneficiary agencies include the Philippine Information Agency and the other government media organizations. The Cultural Center of the Philippines, National Commission for Culture and Arts, and other government art agencies, state universities and colleges, and local government units. Okay, the last one, ICT Skills Strategic Plan, which develops an interagency approach to identifying strategic and policy and program recommendations to address ICT skills demand supply type. So these are the programs that we have to apply to education, teaching, learning. Okay, let's move on to the issues on ICT and internet policy and regulations. So we have the global issues. Access and civil liberties are two sets of issues in ICT policy which are crucial to the modern society. The other concern is civil liberties, which refer to human rights and freedom. These include freedom of expression, the right to privacy, the right to communicate, and intellectual property rights. Access to the use of internet and ICT. Access means the possibility for everyone to use the internet and other media. In richer countries, basic access to internet is almost available to all with faster broadband connections. There are still countries where access to internet is still a challenge, infringement to civil liberties of human rights. What are specific internet issues in internet policy that have relationship to civil liberties or human rights? Okay, let's study further. Number one issue is freedom of expression and censorship. Under international human rights conventions, all people are guaranteed the rights for free expression. However, with the shift from communicating through letter, newspapers, and public meetings to electronic communications and online networking, a need to look into how these new means modifies the understanding of freedom of expression and censorship. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights provide that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Likewise, the right to freedom of opinion and expression. However, there are practices that violate this provision in the use of internet. So here are some examples under the issue number 1, freedom of expression and censorship. So we have individual rights are given up in order to have access to electronic networks. Microsoft Networks or MSN contracts provide protection of individual, like upload or otherwise make available files that contain images, photographs, or other materials protected by intellectual property laws, including but not limiting to copyright or trademark laws, unless you own or control the rights thereto or have received all necessary consents to do the same. However, Microsoft reserves the rights in its sole discretion to terminate access to any or all MSN sites or services. Okay, second, censorship restricts the transmission of information by blocking it or filtering the information. Okay, blocking means preventing access to whole areas of internet based upon the blacklist of certain internet address, location, email address, while filtering is sifting the packets of data or messages as they move across computer networks and eliminating those considered undesirable materials. Okay, the selection of sites that are blocked or filtered has been considered as an issue. Okay, last, defamation actions may be used to silence critics. Okay, this action letters the freedom of expression. But always remember, when you are surfing the web, you may think you are anonymous, but there are various ways that information about you or your activities can be collected without your consent. So let us be more vigilant or watchful about this. Okay, so let's move on to issue number 2, which privacy and security. Privacy policies are an issue. Most commercial sites have a privacy policy. When someone uses a site and clicks I agree button, it is as if you have turned over private information to any authority that may access it. Okay, there are several types of privacy as shown by the following examples. Number 1, for most, privacy means personal privacy, the right of individuals not to have their home, private life, or personal life interfered with. Okay, number 2, privacy of communication refers to the protection from interference with communication over the phone or internet. Respect for privacy of communication is an essential prerequisite for the maintenance of human relationship via technological communications media. Okay, number 3, information privacy is related to the use of computers and communication system which are able to hold and process information about large numbers of people at a high speed. It is important to ensure that information will be only used for purposes for which it was gathered and will not be disclosed to others without consent of the individuals. Okay, so here we are in issue number 3, surveillance in data retention. The use of electronic communications has enhanced the development of indirect surveillance. In the indirect surveillance, there is no direct contact between the agent of the subject of surveillance, but evidence of activities can be traced. The new and powerful form of indirect surveillance is data veillance. Okay, is the use of personal information to monitor a person's activities, while data retention is the storage and use of information from communication systems. Okay, I hope dili mo maglibog sa duha. Data valence and between data retention. Okay, there is a very little that can be done to prevent surveillance. What can be done is to change the methods of working to make surveillance difficult. Okay, this is called counter surveillance or information technology if it refers to computers and electronic communication. Okay, here we are. Issue number 4, e-pollutants for e-waste. Large amount of e-waste is generated by ICT. These are in particular thermal equipment used for computing, PCs or laptops, broadcasting like television and telephony, mixed and fixed and mobile phones, and peripherals like fax machines, printers, and scanners. The accumulated e-waste is due to rapid turnover of equipment due to rapid improvement of software. While material waste can be destroyed by crushing, toxic materials brought about the different equipment requires utmost management. The quantities of e-waste are increasing in both developed and developing countries. A very dismal state is that there is a significant amount of electronic waste that has been shipped from industrial countries to developing countries using less environmentally responsible procedure. Remedies include standardization and regulatory measures to increase the life cycle of equipment before they become obsolete. Efficient extraction of toxic components and requiring the recycling by both consumers and equipment vendors. If not controlled then, e-waste will be tremendously affect climate change. Damage or selling must be required. Human lives and overload the capacity of the earth in carrying solid waste. Okay, here is my question. How do the policy guidelines, projects, and issues relate to the teaching and learning? Okay, let's discuss this. Implications for teaching and learning. Okay, for the teachers and teaching, number 1, it guide the teachers on what they should teach that relate to ICT and how to teach it. Since ICT development comes through so rapid and fast, teachers might be overwhelmed by its rapid speed. The imperance in its use is a caution that should be looked at. Number 2, technology should never replace a human teacher. The tools are support instructional materials for the teachers which are available for use. The teacher should learn how to appropriately use them. Teachers should always be reminded that there are always limitations in the use of the different gadgets and tools. Number 3, there are rules and regulations that govern the use of technology. Caution should be observed to protect individual privacy, okay? As teachers, you must be aware that the use of a technology may jeopardize your privacy and security. Okay, let's bear us in mind. Okay, number 4, all the issues and many more shall be part of the teaching content. Each teacher will be encouraged to use technology in teaching, provided that we are using different gadget and tools properly. Okay, we are done for teachers and teaching. So for now, let's move on for the learners and learning. The learners of the 21st century are even more advanced than some of the teachers. However, learners still need guidance on how to use, regulate technology use. As there are positive and negative effects of technology use, learners should know the difference. Learners should not only know the benefits of technology use, but they should know also how they can be protected from the hazards that technology brings to their lives. Learners should take advantage of the potential of learning support they can derive, such as the development of higher order thinking skills, the development of learning communities through collaboration, the enhancement of skills to manage the vast resources as 21st century learners, and many more. Both the teachers and learners should be mindful of the e-waste that are being thrown away to the land and to the atmosphere. Thus, safety in the use of technology shall be presented. Ayan na siya. Okay, to wrap up to wrap up things, um, always remember that in always to wrap up things in our advanced high technology, there are advantages and there is also a disadvantage. Okay, what we are going to do is we need to use it properly so that we could absorb the benefit, the good benefit, for us to avoid issues, because technology may be not impossible that can be ruin our lives. Okay, so as teachers or as an individual, we need to use everything properly, not just in technology,